each night. One additional name of Pujya Gurudev. We'll chant some names now, and then we'll add one more tonight. These all names come from Shastras only, and all of them have deep philosophical significance. And those who can, you can repeat these names also. Om Omkar Vide Namaha.
Om Omkar Vide Namaha.
Om Karuna Sagaraya Namaha.
Om Karuna Sagaraya Namaha.
Om Karma Parayanaya Namaha.
Om Karma Parayanaya Namaha.
Om Kalatitaya Namaha.
Om Kalatitaya Namaha.
Om Kaivalya Swarupaya Namaha.
Om Kaivalya Swarupaya Namaha.
Om Kritatmane Namaha.
Om Kritatmane Namaha.
Om Kritakrityaya Namaha.
Om Kritakrityaya Namaha.
Om Gita Jnana Yajna Pracharakaya Namaha.
Om Gita Jnana Yajna Pracharakaya Namaha.
Om Gurave Namaha.
Om Gurave Namaha.
Om Gunatitaya Namaha.
Om Gunatitaya Namaha.
Om Granthakrite Namaha.
Om Granthakrite Namaha.
Om Chinmayaya Namaha.
Om Chinmayaya Namaha.
Om Chinmayaya Namaha.
Om Chinmayaya Namaha.
Today comes the most special name of Gurudev in Porosway Sai Center. Chinmayaya Namaha. Chinmaya. Swami Chinmayananda name was given to him by the great Swami Shivananda. Shivanandji, who lived in Himalayas. Swami Shivanandji was, in that time, perhaps the most influential and most renowned Vedantic master in terms of establishing things, one, and teaching students. There are so many sampradayas today existing, whether it is in the field of yoga, Vedanta, or Seva, so many sampradayas existing, all because of Swami Shivananda. He was the one who really garnered Hindus from everywhere, of all stripes, and taught them, gave them diksha, and initiated them, and then sent them to the right place and all that kind of thing. So we have so many, all the Bihar School of Yoga, and today, those of you who have traveled to Bahamas, in the Bahamas there is one Shivananda ashram. And it is run totally by Caucasian people only. It was founded by one Swami Vishnu Devananda. Swami Vishnu Devanandji was disciple of Swami Shivanandji also. Gurudev was Swami Shivanandji's disciple. And then all the other teachers who teach yoga and also. Swami Shivananda was the one who really was the most well-known Hindu. Nobody knew of Swami Tapobanji Maharaj actually. He was then in Himalayas only, not coming down. He'll have 4 students, 3 students or whatever. Swami Shivanandji was the one who was teaching en masse and establishing institutions. And Tapobanji Maharaj was not interested in all of these things. He was just teaching Vedanta to 1 or 2 students who came there, and that was it. No ashram, no nothing. He lived in a little kuti. And you come and learn, and then he chased you out. Get lost from here. Like that. But Swami Shivanandji was the one who really established so many different institutions. Here, now the Divine Life Society was the institution he himself established and ran. Then all his disciples went everywhere and established all sorts of things. And so After he gave Gurudev this name, Chinmaya, he sent him to Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. So it is Swami Shivananda who gave this name. Chinmaya. Chinmaya, I have to tell you a little bit of Sanskrit because this is a special name, That is, in Sanskrit, Chitmaya. Right? Chit, Sat, Chit, Anand. Right? This is a little Sanskrit lesson. Only 2 minutes I'll take. The name is Chitmaya. Maya is in Sanskrit called as pratyaya. It means enveloped by chit, consumed by chit, taken over by chit, made out of chit. Like that. Like, for example, this building is concrete maya. That means what? Made out of concrete. That is how maya is used in Sanskrit. Maya. Not maya. Maya is something else. Maya. So, chit maya will be what? Made out of chit. And chit means pure consciousness, pure awareness. So, who is totally enveloped by chit, made out of chit, fashioned out of chit? That is Chinmaya. When at chit, that ta, which is at the end, chit, the ta meets that ma. In Sanskrit rule, that Sandhi rule is now there. That ta changes to na. So that's how you get chin instead of chit. Got it? If you want to learn the rest, you come to my Sanskrit class, starting from November. But this is all how the rules go. So chit maya becomes Chinmaya. It's just a change of letters, but the meaning doesn't change. Okay? Sandhi rule. All right. So it means one whose very embodiment, whose nature is pure chit, pure consciousness. And now, somebody, like for example, not somebody, see, our Surya Bhagwan, his nature is light, right? So when Surya Bhagwan rises in the morning, what does he give? What else can he give besides? Well, of course, light and heat, right? But we're talking about the light aspect of, he cannot give darkness, he can only give light. If his nature is like that, what he'll give? You see, if somebody's nature is sweet, what he'll give? Sweetness, isn't it? In the very same way, if his nature is consciousness, awareness, what he'll give? So therefore he went on teaching the world Vedanta. Means making people become aware of this vast and ancient knowledge. That was his work for 42 years. Spreading awareness of self, spreading awareness of, chit means awareness, consciousness. See? Awakening people's consciousness. And he did such a fantastic job to awaken so many people. So he gets this name from his great guru. There are 2 types of guru. One I call a Diksha Guru, and the other I call a Shiksha Guru. Diksha Guru means one who initiates. Diksha means initiation. Shiksha means teaching. That's from Shiksha comes Shishya, Shas. To teach also, from that root and all. So, one who teaches, he's called as the Shiksha Guru. So his Shiksha Guru is Swami Tapovanji Maharaj. His Diksha Guru is Swami Shivananda. We all have that here also. My Diksha Guru is Pandit Ram Bachchan. Pandit Ram Bachchan, old Pandit. This, our Anant and Suraj and all of them, their grandfather. He's my Diksha Guru. When I was about 7 or 8, he catch me and shave out my hair and put that. Because little children, they don't know what's going on. It's called Diksha Guru. But Shiksha Guru is Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda. He's the one who gave that knowledge, like teaching. So that we have that in our tradition, throughout our tradition, it is there. So you should not. Many people ask questions, they're scared and all. But you have to understand, we have Diksha and Shiksha Guru both. So absolutely no problem. All right? Because they say, no, this person is my Guru, I can't go and listen to that person. And the Guru himself sent him to listen to. Swami Shivananji himself sent him to listen to Swami Tapobanji Maharaj. You see? All right. Now, if you are joining us tonight for the first time, we are seeing Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Last night when we left it in chapter 3. And Arjuna asked a very, very important question to Bhagwan. And that question is verse number 36. Arjuna Uvacha. We'll see this verse. What is this question? Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushah.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Anichannapi varshneya baladiv niyojitah.
Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
O Varshneya. Arjuna calls Bhagavan as Varshneya. Vrishniklani belong to. O Varshneya. Human beings, including myself, we find ourselves doing the wrong thing. Papam charati. Papam charati means we do pap. We walk the road of charati means we walk the road of pap. We do pap. We commit pap. We do this wrong thing, that wrong thing. There are so many wrong things we do from childhood all the way till the end also. And sometimes people don't realize that sometimes omission also is doing the wrong thing. Means you didn't do anything but you do something wrong. Huh? Because omission also is, well, I don't know how you will say that. Not doing the wrong thing. No, I can't say like that also. Huh? You can't explain that thing like that. Omission also is doing the wrong thing. You omitted to do something. Let me tell you something. Every day, I am called somewhere to mediate into some kind of dispute. And sometimes it's just a matter of little omission here and there. And you know what is a frequent one? Mora and Farah there. Leave the property and they never give the property to this one or that one, and all the property, and all of them start to fight. So the mother and father omitted to do what they were supposed to do. Now fight among all these. Oh, no, they're doing wrong thing also, the children for fighting and all that. But here also that these parents were supposed to have dispersed this property and distributed and all that. So sometimes not doing also. So the human being, all sorts of papa he commits. So Arjuna is asking Prabhu, what is that thing? Baladivani yojita. Forcefully it makes us do. Anichannapi. 2 words he uses. Anichannapi, not desiring. Anichan. Icha means desire. Not desiring. Anichannapi. Even though I don't desire to do something wrong, I find myself doing something wrong. As though baladiva, I am pushed by some force. Bala. Bala means strength, force, power. Some power is pushing me to do this wrong thing. What is that thing? Why do people commit sin? And now follows most wonderful answer by Bhagavan Shri Krishna. One thing let me tell you before we go into this answer. In this world, please take note of this thing. In this world, it is absolutely impossible to attribute or to connect cause and effect. When we say A caused B, that is only seen from a relative standpoint. A caused B. Like for example, if I hit somebody one thappar, like this. So this fellow will feel insulted, he'll feel pain, whatever he'll feel, right? So then we ask now, what is the cause of that thing? Well, it's the cause of his feeling pain is my thappar. But if you go a little bit deeper now, you will say, well, the cause of his pain is really his karma. Because Tulsidaji says, nobody is the source of anybody's joy or sorrow. We are the authors of our own joy and sorrow. So if he is feeling sorrow now, well, the cause is not my thappar, but his own karma. Then, no, this is not that's from one standpoint. From one standpoint, my thappar is the cause, right? From another standpoint, his karma is the cause. From another standpoint, Surya Bhagwan is the cause because all the energy in this hand came from Surya Bhagwan. The energy to give him thappar came from. Now, who is the cause? Cause and effect can only be connected with each other from a relative standpoint. You cannot absolutely connect any cause to any effect. So now Arjuna is asking, what caused me to do pap? What caused me to do sin? Now Bhagwan's reply is given. See now, if Bhagwan has, it's like I just told you, this is the effect, right? You feel in pain, the man feel in pain. And if you start asking which is the cause, well, you could pinpoint so many causes. So among all the causes of sin, Bhagwan is going to select those causes which are most applicable to people. What is generally the most popular or the most applicable cause in the situation? I mean, among human beings, what really causes human beings to do sin? Generally speaking. You understand that thing? If Bhagwan has to say cause for sin, and he follow that right back, he go be the cause. Because he is the Jagat Karta. Jagat Karta means he is the one who is the manifesto of the whole universe, isn't it? Jagat Karta means the manifesto of the universe, one who manifested the universe. And part of the universe is sin. So he is speaking from a very relative standpoint. You see this thing? And we have to now take it and apply it in our life. Because we are at this level. We are not at the level of Karta and you know how Bhagwan manifested this universe and what all. We don't know about that thing. That is his work. Let the Lord do what he does. Right now, at our level, we know that we do wrong things and we are not supposed to be doing wrong things. What causes us to do wrong things? So Bhagavad Gita becomes very technical in all of these things. So now, what a very simple, ordinary level. Just now I told you at the deepest level. The verse picks it up at a very simple, ordinary level for our everyday life. See Bhagwan, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. What is his reply to Arjuna's question? And this applies to our life. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
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 Kama esha krodha esha rajo guna samudbhavaha.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama.
Mahashano mahapapma vidyenam iha veninam.
Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama. Shri Krishna Sharanam
यथा दर्शो मलिन च
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
यथोदेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पूरेणानलेन च
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
इन्द्रियाणि मनोबुद्धिः अस्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
एतैर्विमुह्यत्येषः ज्ञानमावृत्य देहिनम्
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
तस्मात् त्वम् इन्द्रियाण्यादौ नियम्य भरतर्षभ
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
पाप्मानं प्रजहिह्येनं ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशनम्
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम बोले वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय। Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Shri Bhagavan means Bhagavan Shankaracharya gives nice verses and description of Bhagavan. Bhagavan, he gives two descriptions there in his Bhashya. One is he who has all power, all name, fame, wealth, is that 6 bhagas, Aishwarya and all, majesty, that is the Lord. Shri, Yasha, all such things. All the great qualities, he is Bhagavan. Also he says that Bhagavan is the one who knows past, present and future of all beings. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Bhagavan knows past, present and future of all beings. He's called as Sarvagnya. Description. That Bhagavan, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. What he says? Arjuna's question, what causes us to do sin? Kama esha krodha esha ha rajo guna samudbhavaha. Kama and Krodh born from Rajogun. Rajas. This causes us to do all sin. So what is it? Now see, there are 3 things there. Kama, which causes Krodh, because Krodh is only caused by Kama. We saw that in 2nd chapter, those of you who were there. All anger is caused only by desire. If there is no desire, we will never have any anger. Any instance of anger, you just see, it is just because I had some desire that was not fulfilled. And that unfulfilled desire metamorphosizes into anger. So all anger is unfulfilled desire. But this desire now, he says, Rajoguna samudbhavaha comes from rajas. Rajas. There are three gunas of Maya: sattva, rajas, and tamas. This is the better way to tell it. Sattva, rajas, and why this is the better way to tell it? Don't start from this side. Sattva, rajas, and tamas. Start from this side. Sattva, rajas, and tamas, because sattva is always less. And tamas is always most. But Bhagavan says it's called by rajas. In other words now, what he means, the cause, he's attributing the cause as Maya. Because, it has not come yet, but I mentioned. The three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, together is actually Maya. It is not that Maya contains them. The three gunas put together is called as Maya. So now what he calls is what? Maya. So what will be the answer? The answer to Arjuna's question. What causes us to do pap? Maya. What aspect of Maya? Rajas. What does this rajas do? It causes desire. When the desire becomes unfulfilled, it causes anger. So anger is not the cause of sin. Here in ordinary language now, desire is really the cause. So Bhagavan is going to now single out, after this whole chain which I just told you, he's going to single out desire. Kama eshaha, krodha eshaha, rajoguna samudbhavaha, mahashano mahapapma, vidyena miha vairinam. You know that this is the great sinner, the great what do you call enemy. Mahashanaha, mahapapma, vidyena miha vairinam. Vairinam means enemy. So this is the great enemy of all human beings, or kama. But please remember, kama also comes from rajogun. Rajogun is nothing but Maya. So now, in other words, we allow this rajogun to take us over, and then the desire springs up in the heart. And when this desire springs up in the heart of a human being, well, nothing can stop that. Just now he'll describe that thing further. You have to see the manifestation of desires. And I told in Sanskrit there are different words that indicate different degrees of desire. The first one is slight desire. That's what I call as asha. Well, not, it's a feminine name. Asha. Asha means hope. That's a kind of light. Well, I hope it rains today. But if it doesn't rain, I will not be vexed with God, But just hoping. We call asha. Hope. Second, we call it ichha. Ichha means want. We want, in hope, we really don't do anything to materialize the object of the hope. You're just hoping. Ichha is the second one. We do something. But we're doing it thinking, okay, it may happen or it may not. It may not happen. Like you plant a stick of cassava. So you plant a stick of cassava. Well, you want cassava, but if it doesn't materialize, then okay, no problem. You won't get vexed with anybody and start breaking down the house and all that kind of thing. It's okay. If I didn't get cassava, it's okay. That's called ichha. Now the next one, the third one is called as kama. Kama means strong. If my desire is not fulfilled, somebody will die. Not me, The one who caused my desire not to be fulfilled. That is called kama. This is the most dangerous of all of them. The last one is called as trishna. Trishna means such intense and burning thirst that if that thing is not fulfilled, I will die. That's called trishna. That's how people commit suicide and all, because they want something and they can't really get that thing. When he's going to commit suicide, right? Suppose he's going there to commit that suicide, and then you say, okay, come. You could marry she if you want. I'm just saying, Then you think he will commit suicide again? He give up suicide and all that thing. And one fella telling the girl, if you don't marry me, see that mango tree outside your window? I'll go and hang myself on that mango tree. She said, no, don't do that. My father don't like boys hanging around the house, you know. It's a bad plan. So, in Trishna, when that desire cannot be fulfilled, that person will die himself. He wanted something so badly. So, that is okay. He gone. Don't go and tell anybody now. I'm telling that suicide is good. I'm talking about a natural phenomenon which happens in the universe. And after he's gone, well, everything is all. What are you going to do now? I'm not condoning or saying, I'm just saying that is what happens in the universe. Right? And don't think some civilizations more and some less and some cultures more. In every civilization, every culture, every country, everywhere is the same thing. Some periods in the history they'll be up and down, but all about is the same thing. You go from Argentina to Czechoslovakia to wherever, it's all same. So, I told you the third one, that calm, that fellow is the dangerous one. Because anything that happens after karma is trouble. Look here now. I'll show you. That karma, when that desire comes, if that thing is fulfilled, that means I have a desire for something. If that is fulfilled, that karma, that energy inside, metamorphosizes into greed. Because when you get one, you want two. When you get two, you want three. When you get three, you want four. Like that has no end. So if it is fulfilled, it changes into greed. If that karma is thwarted by somebody, not fulfilled, then it changes into anger. If it is thwarted by somebody reverential, who you can't get angry with, it changes into depression. My classic example is that I met Guruji in Delhi. Swami Nikhilanand Jain, we met. So Swamiji, he did to me. He said, ask Guruji, let us go to his yagna in Lucknow. He was going to Lucknow, so we want to go. We didn't want to go. He tell me, let me go. So then, I also now get this desire. Yeah, I want to go. So he telling me, say, you ask. I said, Guruji, we want to come to your yagna in Lucknow. Can we come? This is from New Delhi. And Guruji shouted back immediately, no! Why you'll come there? Stay here and do your work. No, you can't get angry with Guruji. Especially when you look at his face. No, that... and it pop your balloon, man. Eh? So the same desire now changes into depression. So if it is thwarted by somebody reverential, if somebody else get that object of desire before you, that desire changes into jealousy now. I'm telling, anything that happens with this desire, it only spells trouble. That is what Bhagavan says, Vairinam, Vidya nam iha. And see, and that's why I was telling you, Bhagavan uses a little word in Sanskrit here, it's called iha. Iha means here. Here means in ordinary discussion, in ordinary life, among ordinary people, this is the discussion. We're not talking about Maya and all the other things. We're just talking about desire here among ordinary people. Here, on this earth, among us. This is the problem. What? Desire. Calm. Which leads to krodha and all the other things, which I just told. Mahashano. Maha-ashanaha. Maha-ashanaha means it devours the human being. Ashana means one who eats. It eats away at society, eats away at civilization. Kama. See, all this killing and all things, all kama. We desire that we should be superior, we should lead, we should rule, we should be all. Desires only. Others should not follow what they should follow. Us. And if they don't follow, we kill them. Kama. Desire for power, desire for money, desire for prowess, desire for subjugation, oppression. All sorts of desires people have. And those who don't conform, not ship up or shape up or ship out. Not that, Shape up or die. Shape up or ship out, that is a good proposal. Desire. So all the problem, Maha-ashanaha will devour the whole civilization. Maha-papma, this kama. You wouldn't believe at the root of all corruption, evil, everything that you see in this world today, kama. Why do people commit sin? Just remember this one word. Kama. And he said, this kama, avritam jnanam etena jnanino nityavairina, constant enemy of a seeker of liberation. Jnaninaha. Constant enemy. Nityavairina. Kama rupena kaunteya. Tushpurena analenacha. Difficult like an insatiable fire. Insatiable fire. Bhagwan also uses such wonderful words, I tell you, if you see the Sanskrit words and all. Dushpurena analenacha. Anala in Sanskrit is fire. Now there's other words in Sanskrit for fire also. Agni is also fire, no? But Bhagavan doesn't use Agni. He uses Anala. You know why? Analam. Analam is fire. Anala. I tell you, if you see the etymology of the word, he doesn't use the Agni word. He uses the Analam word. Why? Because Alam in Sanskrit means enough. Alam means enough. Analam means never enough. This is a human being. Never enough. This desire inside of him is like a fire. When I see if you keep on feeding fuel into that fire will ever say enough. So he uses that word to describe human kama. Dushpurena. Dushpurena means insatiable, can never be satisfied. And then anala. So two words coming. You wouldn't believe this strength of Bhagwan's expression. You have to really understand the Sanskrit words there. How the magnitude of this desire and the power of this desire, amazing in human beings. He says, it is dhumena avriyate vahnihi. I read the other verse before this one because this verse gives example. Dhumena avriyate vahni yatha darsho malena cha yatol bena avrito garbha tatha tene damavritam. This desire clouds the knowledge and the understanding and the awareness and consciousness and wisdom and all of that of a human being. And depending on the strength of the desire, depending on the strength of human desire, so the knowledge will be shrouded or clouded or veiled and all of that. So 3 examples are given here. How wonderfully the Lord also structures his examples and all. Yatol vena, dhumena avriyate vahani, yathadarsho malena cha, yatol vena avrito garbha. These are the 3 examples. What are the 3 examples? See, he says one is, in some people, desire is like dhumena avriyate vahni. Like smoke in the fire. Smoke cover the fire. Sometimes there's some smoky fire. So there's fire inside there, but the smoke on the outside, you really can't see the fire. The smoke blocking the fire. Then the other one is yatha darsho malena cha, like dust on a mirror. So this is how desire veils human intelligence and human thinking and awareness and all that, right? So the second example is like dust on a mirror. When a mirror covered with some dust and you really can't see yourself in that mirror, isn't it? See a reflection. And the last one is yatol vena vrito garbha, like the embryo in the womb. Veil, covered. And the embryo block up inside, you can't see. From outside, you can't see any embryo. Right? And 3 examples, see them now. In the fire and smoke, a little puff of wind. Smoke gone. You see nice bright fire. And then even that blow, you see the fire brightly. Then on the mirror, you take some water and dust, what do you call detergent and I think, and what is it? Windex, yes. You take some water and Windex and nice, you see, nice reflection, man. Dirt gone. Now, embryo in the womb, well, you can't do nothing, you just have to wait now. Isn't it? He said, this is how the desire is there in different beings. So, elevated beings or great sadhakas, spiritual aspirants, people who are on the spiritual path, some desires will be there, but it'll be like that smoke, you know. Desire is gone. He is free from desires. And then there are people in middle. It will be like the dust on the mirror. And then there are some, well, you can't do nothing. You just have to wait now. When his desires and that cloud of desires in his mind will be removed and the inner self will shine forth, we don't know. Because, Bhagavan doesn't tell here human Garbha. He just says Garbha, embryo in the womb. That could be of any species. So there is different time for different species, isn't it? And to be born as a Devta, how long it will take? Eons. So for some people it takes eons. And some people, all desire is gone. We have to decide where we want to be. Indriyani mano buddhihi asya adhisthana muchyate. He says that this desire is there in Indriya, Mana and Buddhi. In our senses, in our mind, and in our Buddhi intellect. Desire is to be found there. Desire is the subject matter which is being spoken about here. Desire is in my Indriya, senses. All desire was in the mind. What he means to say, we have desire for things that please our senses. We have desire for things that please our mind. And we have desire for things that please our intellect. We have different types of desires like that. So you'll know that for senses, like some people, they like nice, finery. And in Trinidad, we have all kind of nice threads there, boy. They feel it like that. Threads there. Satin. I don't know what is it. Silk. Silk, yeah. Silk and satin, and we like, and it's pillow and all, feather pillow. That touch, water bed. One man get up in the morning. He say, last night I dreamed I swallowed a big marshmallow. And when I woke up in the morning, I see my pillow missing. Touch, in the sense of touch, we like nice, soft, and all kind of different people go on making all kind of different beds and this and that to see which one, so that it will satisfy the touch. So we like those type of things for the senses. Eyes, pleasing things. Things that are going to please the eyes. Sound. Nowadays, who wants to sit down and listen to all old Muhammad Rafi and Mukesh and all of them? It had no effects. It had no nothing, bland music. People like to hear, like that kind of, That is what? That has reversed the I see that, this DJ and all. Yes. And taste, well, that tongue, this is the master of the universe today. Tongue is the master of the universe. It is through the tongue the civilization is killing itself. For taste, people don't mind getting addicted to all the addictive ingredients they put in all the fast food. And people don't mind because they like the taste. I go dead, but that's all right. No. Go on. Yeah, go dead anyway, so better have dead eating. Like that we think. So all the senses. So the desire there lurking in the senses Then desire there looking in the mind means mind is where we have all the feelings. In Sanskrit, manas is where we have sankalpa vikalpatmakaha manaha. This is the definition for mind, where we have all the emotions, going back and forth and all that kind of thing. The human beings going back and forth in emotions, right? So there, we like all the nice emotions, Tell me something nice now. So because you want to feel good. So you go and desiring. I hope they tell me something nice. I hope they call my name, I hope they put my name in the paper so tomorrow I feel good. They praise me. They recognize me. Like that. So I'll feel good. So the desire is there to please the mind. Tell me something soft and sweet. Jub jub. Something like that, People like all sorts of things. And then, buddhi, he says, it's there in the intellect, his desire. What? I want to be recognized for my intellectual prowess. I want that when I establish my ideology, everybody should say, yeah, that thing is sound. I want everybody to accept and to believe what I say, my intellectual presentation. I want to say that, man, you have it spashta, man. You have it clean. In Trinidad language, you have it cork. In the old days, they used to say, have it cork. So this desire is there. See, I want at the intellectual level, I want at all the levels. Asyadhisthana muchyate etaihi vimohayati eshaha jnanamavritya dehinam. This dehinaha, this one who is dwelling in this body, he is totally deluded and his knowledge is covered up. Mohayati, this kama, desire, deludes him and covers up his knowledge. He's so taken up with all of the desires, running after one after the next. Such a life is not conducive to spirituality. This is the idea. Please remember, we started this topic in the second chapter. Bhagavan is presenting a part of pure spirituality, not a part of using religion and spirituality for worldly gains. This is a part of pure spirituality he's presenting in Bhagavad Gita. So, the person becomes totally deluded by all this jnana, this kama, desires of so many various types, I told last night also, and it covers up his chances of intuiting the reality of his own heart. Jnanam avritya. Jnana means his inner knowledge of self. That is covered up. No chance. Tasmat, therefore, my dear Arjuna, tvam indriyani adau, in the beginning first, niyamya, O Bharatashava, you control the senses. The senses and the mind and the intellect, they will have desires now for this, for that, for the other thing. And again it comes back to the individual, not to, last night I told, there is the individual and there is the rest of the world. You really can't do anything about the rest of the world. You could take the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Today I see a horse. Somebody posted. He said, you could take the man to knowledge, but you can't make him think. The horse saying that. That's from the horse's mouth. You could take the man to knowledge, but you can't make him think. You could take the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So, we can only take care of our own spirituality. So, therefore, first, we control the senses. Indriyani. Adau means first. You see, the idea is we should not try to jump to control mind and then to try to control intellect. They are more subtle. Senses are more gross. So first let's control the senses. Papmanam prajahi hienam jnana vijnana nashanam. This kama is destroyer of jnana and vijnana, knowledge and wisdom, and causes us to do all sins like that. Indriyani paranyahuhu, indriyebhya param manaha. From there to see now. Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, Shri Krishna Sharanam
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
इन्द्रियाणि पराण्याहुः इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिः यो बुद्धे परतस्तु सः
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
एवं बुद्धे परं बुद्ध्वा संसव्यात्मानमात्मना
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
जहि शत्रुं महाबाहो आमरूपं दुरासदम्
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम श्रीकृष्ण शरणं मम
Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param manaha. Indriya, so he tells now, why just now he told, first control the senses, these 5 senses. So pancha jnana indriya, the pancha karma indriyas, or hands also, feet and all these 5 senses, they only pull us into all worldly things only. First we control them. And then higher than, more subtle than the senses, indriyani paranyahu indriyebhya param manaha. Beyond the senses is the mind. If we can master standard 1, standard 2, then we'll be able to go up to standard 3, standard 4, isn't it? If you can't master here, so we can't master these senses, then how will master mind? So the tongue says, I want to eat this, the eyes say, I want to see that, the ears say, I want to listen to this. We say, no. Why? How about if we sit quietly for a little while? They will protest, but then you say, no, sense will protest. We say no. Then we'll go now to master new. What does the mind do? Sankalpa, vikalpatmakaha. The mind goes here, there, everywhere. Yes, no, jumping like a monkey. In 6th chapter it will come. The mind will be studied in detail. So, if we don't master the senses, he says master the senses. You see? Master the senses. And then the mind will be there, which is subtler, greater. Then manasastu para buddhihi. Then the buddhi is even greater than the mind. Yo buddhe paratastu saha. Saha means that atma, self, reality, God, is beyond the buddhi. So where there is the senses, there is the mind, there is the intellect, and beyond the intellect is saha, that absolute reality. Soham, you heard? Saha aham, I am he. I am that reality. So that same saha, soham, same saha is referred to here. So that self is beyond intellect also. Buddhi grahyam ati indriyam. You will see that later on in 6th chapter. So that self is beyond. Now, evam buddhe param buddhva, having known that reality, which is beyond, samstabhyatmanam atmana. Knowing the reality, what? By how? By a controlled personality, controlled senses, controlled mind, controlled intellect. And coming to know that reality, my dear Arjuna, Jai Shatrum, oh Mahabaho, you slay this enemy, which is called as Kama. This is the most strongest line in this 3rd chapter. And one of the strongest line in Bhagavad Gita. Jai Shatrum, we can't read Jai Shatrum Mahabaho. We just chanting like that because we have no other tune. Jai, this is called in Sanskrit as imperative mood of ha, to eliminate, eradicate. Jai Shatrum Mahabaho. Kama Rupam Durasadam. It's very difficult thing to conquer this Kama. Durasadam means very difficult to conquer. It's of this enemy, which is of the nature of Shatrum. Shatrum word is given here. Enemy, which is of the nature of Kama. What you have to do? Oh, Mahabahu. And he calls him Mahabahu. Mahabahu means powerful armed, that Arjuna. Means you have the power in you to remove this Kama. This is the enemy of the human being. On the spiritual path, this is the enemy. Kama. Jai Shatrum Mahabaho. Kama Rupam Durasadam. This line has to be read like that. This strong expression by Bhagavan because of the mood used in Sanskrit. So, if you want to succeed on the spiritual path, if you really want to get on the spiritual path, this Kama which manifests at all levels of the personality and make a monkey out of us, make us do all sorts of foolish things, this Kama has to be removed. And it shreds all my knowledge, wisdom, everything. Desire one after the next. That's why you see a person all the time is living so many contradictions at the same time. It is Kama which is making him dance like a monkey. A person will have all sorts of contradictions in his life. You see, simple things I'll tell you, which you see on a daily basis. People tell me, Swamiji, but that man going satsang every day, but if you see his behavior, you see, everybody know what I'm talking about. If you see behavior, Kama. He has one desire to go satsang, but they all type of other desire. When they all come together, well, they have a real, that person becomes like concrete, mixed up and permanently set. Mixed up like anything. There is no consistency in his life. You find a schizophrenic personality with so many, and schizophrenia might be a light word because there are perhaps two personalities only. But there's multiple personalities in one. Be calm. So, Bhagavan says, Jai Shatrum. This enemy has to be removed. Kama Rupam Durasadam. Durasadam is very difficult to conquer. But the one who could do it, will certainly succeed on the spiritual path. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastra Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Yogo Nama Tritiyaha Adhyayaha. This third chapter is called as Karma Yoga. And in other words, how you tie this ending of this chapter with Karma Yoga. Yesterday we were saying that a person, we saw, everybody has some sort of duty. By nature, by our guna karma, everybody is given some sort of duty. And as you go along in life, you acquire different types of duties. The moment you become parents, then different duties come. So you're supposed to leave certain things and pick up some new things. You see? So duties come in life as well. Then when your parents become old, then some other duties come. So as you go along in life, you get different duties. But people neglect their duties, omit their duties. People, sometimes they leave their duty and start doing some other thing like that. He said, but I'm still doing something, with my time. But you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing with your time. So all that, this all caused by karma. For a person to sway from the line of duty, that thing is caused by karma. And when I sway from the line of duty, I omit my duty, then I do not evolve as a human being. There is no purity. Chitta Shuddhi doesn't come because by doing duty in dedication to Bhagavan, Chitta Shuddhi comes. I told you that. Purity of mind. That mind becomes conducive to learning Atma Gyan. So if I don't do my duty properly and dedicate it to God, there will be no Chitta Shuddhi, purity of mind, then there will be no absorption of knowledge, then no moksha. This is how it is. So I deviate from my duty because of karma. So this is how karma is connected to karma yoga. And karma is also connected to karma yoga in a second sense. How? I told that if you are working selfishly, that is called karma, that is not called karma yoga. If you are working selflessly, that is called as karma yoga. working for the benefit of humanity. That's called karma yoga. So karma causes everybody to work selfishly, not selfless. It's strong desire, personal desires for my own aggrandizement and my own thing. That causes everybody to work selfishly. And that's how karma, so this chapter ends with karma. He started with karma yoga, how he started talking about karma? What, he changed topic and we know what? There's, everything is just perfectly consistent in the Bhagavad Gita. Eh? Don't make any mistake about it. If you don't understand something, not Bhagavan's fault, it's your fault. Or who am I teaching? But not Bhagavan's fault. Everything connected nicely. Karma Yogo Nama Tritiyaha Adhyayaha. It is the third chapter which they call as Karma Yoga. Now, Bhagavan touched on several things in this third chapter on Karma Yoga, and some of them need clarification. Some of them need elaboration. And that is why fourth chapter is given. But that we'll see tomorrow.